Good afternoon, everybody. I'd like to welcome you all here on behalf of Kay and family. Lovely to have you all here. My name is John Batt. I'm a friend of Bill and Kay's and was happy to agree when asked by Kay to MC proceedings for the celebration of life for Bill this afternoon. Kay wanted an informal gathering where we spend some time reflecting on Bill's life, remembering his good qualities and the contribution he has made to people's lives personally and to community life in general. The format is simple, and if you've got one of these, you can open that up and it gives you a little order of proceedings in the middle there. There is an opportunity for people to contribute a story or a recollection about Bill later in the service if you would like to do so. Please, when I do it, come on down. I'll be reading some recollections on behalf of those present and some who could not be here today. A video of proceedings is being made by Bob, and we thank Bob. And Lincoln up there for setting up the audio-visual aspects today. I'd also like to thank the Neerim District Historical Society and others who have contributed towards afternoon tea. I moved to Neerim South in 2011, 15 years ago now, it's amazing. Bill and Kay arrived in 2012. I met Bill through the local men's shed meetings. Bill was a member on the governance committee and treasurer. I also had contact with Bill through his role along with Lincoln putting together the very popular local Neerim Star newspaper. I have contributed articles over the years, and Bill was always very encouraging and efficient in his dealings with me. However, it was through the Adventure Walking Group that I got to know Bill. Bill organised the walkers, and I can say that the ancient mode of transport, of walking accompanied with talking, is a very positive way to meet other community members and develop friendships. Bill did a very effective job conscientiously organising our weekly walks. On the walks, Bill's sense of humour came out time after time as he bantered with members of the group initially and as a collective. One of our members, Jerry, in particular, and Julie's here with us, lovely to have you here, Julie, had a keen sense of humour, and the witty exchanges between the two entertained all of us. It was entertained travelling in the car with them on our way to a walking destination. Jerry would make a remark and Bill would respond. The banter would escalate into ever-increasing hilarity as one would try to outdo the other in the ridiculous, much to the joy of those around about them. Bill and Jerry played practical jokes on one another. On one occasion, Bill placed a fake parking ticket on the windscreen of Jerry's car after one of our walks. On one of our more adventurous walks down Glen Nayuk, Bill and Jerry posited the presence of the mythical Bigfoot following us. Jerry, who was 6'7", had an old pair of shoes that had lost their soles and held them up as physical evidence of the existence of Bigfoot. An article ended up in the Neerim Star asking the question as to whether Bigfoot is living at Glen Nayuk Sanctuary, with a photo of Jerry holding the detached sole of the runner. A joke that they never got tired of was when Jerry would continually ask Bill, as organiser of the adventure walk, about the topographical details of the walk, asking him what the inclination of the hills we walked up and down on. If the inclines were too steep, he would claim occupational health and safety. He continually asked how many kilometres the walks were and would insist on Bill wearing high visibility clothing. The walks were always entertaining and the problems of the world were discussed and solved by us armchair experts. Much hilarity, but amidst that time also the opportunity to go deeper into relationships as mutual admiration and respect grew. We learnt each other's life stories and a mutually beneficial companionship grew. Jerry, unfortunately, and Bill are no longer with us. We're sad about that. They are implaceable and both are sorely missed. In recent times, we were all sad to hear that Bill's cancer had come back, as it looked for a while that he was in remission. Bill faced the prospect of his passing with the same courage that he displayed as he was going through his treatment. Bill's major concern was with the impact that his death would have on Kay. Bill wanted to stay home for as long as he could, and Kay did a wonderful job along with the local district nurses of the palliative care unit to make that possible. Community members and men shedders like Rob Matthews came and gardened for Kay on a regular basis. Other folk dropped in food and flowers. I know that Bill would want me to acknowledge all that Kay has done for him. Bill appreciated Kay, the love of his life, and constant support and companion. Well done. Bill will be remembered as a loving husband to Kay, a lover of his family and Kay's family, a gentle, quiet soul who sought to be a help to his family and the communities that he lived in over the years. And we'll be hearing more of Bill's life through testimonials of those who knew and loved him later on. Well, Kay has provided a biographical outline of Bill's life. Bill was born at Toowoomba Hospital in February 1955. He was the firstborn to Arthur and Dawn Statham, who lived on a dairy farm at Waima on the Darling Downs of Queensland. His mother, Dawn, was born with a heart defect, pulmonary stenosis, and this was causing serious problems for her, resulting in what was a very new open heart procedure in Royal Prince Alfred Hospital, Sydney in 1957. Bill was sent to live with three aunties who cared for him for a fairly lengthy time in order for Dawn to recover and build back up her strength. They moved to another farm in East Greenmount. Apparently it was recommended she have no more children. Thankfully, three lovely sisters arrived in the coming years: Helen, Robin, and quite a bit later, Debbie. And Robin and Debbie are here with us this afternoon. Helen couldn't come because of ill health. Bill went to Emu Creek Primary School for his primary years and Clifton Hill High School for his secondary schooling. He obviously enjoyed a variety of sports, judging from the photographs and certificates that he saved. From there he went on to study civil engineering in Brisbane, where he boarded whilst studying. His first position was working at Rockler Pipes, and then later in the construction of the Glen Lyon Dam. The family moved from the farm to a general store and post office and telephone exchange in Colby. Although he didn't live there full time, he would tell stories of the characters encountered during their time there. He changed course in his career path and went on to other pursuits: radio and television technician, small business, as a catering food van, landscape gathering, working with disability services, attendant caring, naturopathy and homeopathy, and natural therapies, later specialising in homeopathy. He studied not only in Australia, but went to the UK and did postgraduate licentiate degree. During this time, he also did quite a bit of travel in Europe and the UK. It was in 1999, whilst Bill was in UK studying, that Dawn had a dissecting aortic aneurysm and died. He immediately returned home to grieve with his family. Later, he returned to finish his studies. Arthur later joined him when he graduated, and they travelled together around UK and Europe, and Bill visited India on his way home. Bill settled in Victoria and set up a homeopathic practice, staying with his sister Debbie and her husband Sam, then moving onto a share house. A little while later, Bill and Kay met and fell in love. They married in a lovely, quiet ceremony at Kay's home in Ringwood in November 2000, in the garden they created together. It was during this period, and through his desire to help his patients identify what might be triggering their illnesses or holding them back from fully healing, that he started his long journey of researching which chemical additives in foods and personal care products might be affecting them. He thought he'd do a little card that would fit in their wallet to help identify the culprits. Well, after 18 months of solid research, he found that it needed to be a book, so he decided to tackle that. He always said that he could reach more people through the chemical maze books and apps, helping them reach a higher level of health than he could with one client at a time in the clinic. In 2001, Bill and Kay typeset and formatted, then self-published the first edition of his book, The Chemical Maze, companion to take with you to decode those numbers in the labels in foods and personal care items. Since that original book, there have been a total of 4 editions of the small shopping companion and 2 editions of the bookshelf companion, which also had the chemicals you might find in your laundry or cleaning cupboard. And there are some of the books on display in the foyer. The rights for overseas editions were subsequently sold, and it has been published in 9 languages other than English, and in the UK and USA. Later, the opportunity was available to partner with a company to produce an app for your phone. This still exists. The last of the Australian editions went out of print in 2025. Bill has been interviewed on television, radio and on internet blogs and videos. His work has been far-reaching, and the family are immensely proud of what an achievement this was. Bill's interests have been wide and extensive. He has a certificate permaculture and design consultant from the Permaculture Institute, a certificate in that, a New South Wales TAFE owner builder course certificate. He has worked side by side with Kay in the shop she had, selling jewellery and gifts in block, and building up of her online business over the years, selling beads and findings and art materials to jewellery artists, and supporting her in her own personal quest. Bill and Kay have done much and moved around quite a bit over the 25 years of their marriage. However, as family situations changed, they looked at settling down into their own home in West Gippsland. They moved to Neerim South in the second quarter of 2012, initially in Burtonwood Court, where they rented a house short term while looking for a somewhere suitable to purchase. Thankfully, via the wonderful network of friends and acquaintances, they found their home and moved in December 2012 to begin the task of renovating and enjoying life in Neerim South. They were delighted when Kat, Brad and their boys Reese and Brodie moved to Neerim South to settle. Bill and Kay have always been strong supporters of community involvement, feeling very strongly that it is within that network of friends and acquaintances that so much can be achieved together. So they each, in their own ways, have enmeshed themselves into their respective and collective interest groups in either membership or leadership roles. Much of which, of course, diminished once Bill received his diagnosis at the end of 2019. The support of this community has been a huge help to them during those years, over these 12 months. Kay will be forever grateful for the huge support, the kindness and the love that has been shown during this time, and indeed has continued since his death. Bill's sisters, some information about them. Helen Thomason, married to Wally Thomason. Children, Rebecca, Megan, Christopher and Jessica. Robin Lamont, married to Neil Lamont. Children, Amy, Caitlin and Shauna. Debbie, I don't know whether I got this right. Kiriakou, married to Sam Kiriakou. Children, Alex, Adam and Emmy. Kay's brothers, Peter Lancashire, married to Yvette Lancashire. Children, Bram and Thea. Michael Lancashire, married to Gail Lancashire. Children, Brendan, Grant and Colleen. Warwick Lancashire, married to Alison Lancashire. Children, Amelia and Felicity. Kay's children, Kathleen, Kat Hanson, been a wonderful support to Kay. Children, Reese and Brodie. Michael Kelly, partner is Afton, who has a daughter, Lawrence. And Kay's mum's still with us, aged 96, Lois. Now, Bill's sisters have given me a eulogy. You'll have to listen to my voice again, I'm sorry. This is a eulogy from Helen, Robin and Debbie. Bill Statham was our big brother, older than his three sisters by between 5 and 12 years. And I'm proud to say he took his role seriously. Annoying just enough to earn the title, he was, above all, kind, caring and protective. Growing up, he was always full of surprises, from us arriving home from school one day with the lounge room floor covered in scale electric cars and trucks. Mum indulged him because he was the favourite. Only boy, I think. He tried karate, built his own table, loved the cartoon Andy Cap, skydiving, I didn't know that about him, paragliding, built his own stereo speakers, firewalking and eating, you name it, he was up for it. He was very close to completing a civil engineering degree when he decided it was not for him. He then tried a variety of jobs, including owning a pie van that he took to building sites. Mum was his wingman, she loved it. Even hairdressing, until he finally landed on his great love, homeopathy. Robin has asked me to pass on the following memories to you all. As a young girl, I tagged after him, as young sisters do, sitting still for what felt like hours, helping him catch birds on the family farm for his aviary, leading his three sisters down the paddock to cut down and then help carry back just the right branch from a gum tree for the Christmas tree. He took choosing the right branch very seriously, and many were inspected prior to a choice being made. Later on, when I was a teenager, Bill took me along on many activities and adventures. Some that come to mind are horse riding, squash, which in true Big Brother style, he never let me win. A great weekend canoeing down the Brisbane River, square dancing, definitely not my thing, and even simple Sunday drives down country lanes just to see where they would go. Trips to Brisbane in the trusty red Datsun 1400. He also introduced me and my older sister, Helen, to the Rotaract Social Club, where we both met our future partners, something I will be eternally grateful for. Debbie remembers the methodical pounding under the house for the homemade archery set, the loud sound effect machine he created, and the many discussions about his unconventional theories on world news. I've heard a few of those too. He hadn't given up on those ones, had he? As we all grew older and more independent, Bill went off on his own adventures, living in London while he gained his homeopathic qualifications and then travelling through many other parts of the world. No matter where he was, he never missed a birthday or a Christmas. But what we will miss most about Bill is his sense of humour and his ability to see the lighter side of life. We will miss his funny stories, his willingness to laugh at himself, and his kindness and caring. We were all delighted when he found his life partner Kay to share his life and his stories with, and we offer her and her children our sincerest condolences. Bill, we will miss you more than you could ever guess. We are grateful that you were in our lives as long as you were, though we wish it could have been longer. We admire the courage, humility and grace you showed throughout your final years as you dealt with all that was thrown at you. Rest in peace. We love you. Now I'll ask Kay if she'd like to get up, say a few words. Thanks, Kay.
Over these last 12 months, my mantra has been left foot, right foot, repeat, and Kathleen added to that later, we can do hard things. I've written this down so that I can at least get across what I want to say. Bill was one of a kind, and I'm guessing anyone who knew him will have worked that out pretty quickly after meeting him the first time. His kindness and sensitivity were reflected in so many things he did and said. He was not, however, a romantic. Well, not in the hearts and flowers kind of way. He didn't do Christmas presents, birthday presents, anniversary acknowledgements. Mind you, having said that, more recently the fur babies have sort of infiltrated there, and I've managed to get some of those. But Bill did gifts of his talents of creativity and support, and listening to ideas you might have, turning those into reality when you weren't looking. I want to share with you a perfect example of a huge gift, showing just how extraordinary he was. As many of you probably know, I used to go to do fibre art events in Ballarat, where I would set up a small pop-up shop to supply students who attended with all sorts of supplies. It'd take me hours of gathering up supplies, packing the truck, unpacking the truck, setting up, and then a week of selling. This particular event, I was also going to be attending a class. A bold move, given I would have no downtime, but worth it, for the teacher was a hero of mine, and she only came out to Australia every few years. Bill had helped me in his very methodical way of stacking the truck and doing heavy lifting. I had help at the other end, so whilst unpacking and setting up, I seemed to be missing an all-important tool bag and supplies for this very special class I was attending. Had someone unpacked it and put it somewhere safe So to save time, I phoned home and asked the question that I really didn't want to hear the answer to. Darling, can you check the workshop and see if there's a bag near the door? Yes, it's here. Plus the checklist. Did you realise that you should have checked it to see it was packed? Well, yes, I had even ticked it off because it was the last thing I thought I was packing. Obviously, that didn't happen. Well, I needed to be creative. A fellow student had offered to share the tools I did have and some supplies I had for sale that I could use. Thanks, darling. I will need to be more attentive in the future. Fast forward to the next day. Setting up my shop and getting ready took until the last moment before the meet and greet with the teacher. I was just looking up to the clock to see how long I had before this class when I spotted my beloved striding towards me with a rolling suitcase. You guessed it, full of tools and supplies. He had caught the early train from Druin to Southern Cross and then on to Wendouree, walking the last kilometre to the college. He just had time to peck me on the cheek, ask for the directions to the loo, and then return to the station to catch the next train back to Melbourne. That was nearly 10 hours travelling just to make sure I had what I needed for what he deemed to be a very important class. It was more important to him for me to attend class than to try and earn the money to pay for that class. He backed me to the hilt. He believed in me like no other. So much so that I finally believed in myself as an artist. So forget hearts and flowers and give me that loving support anytime. Yes, I miss his quirky, dry humour and his adventurous soul and his kindness and thoughtful caring. But most of all, I miss that strong belief in me that I sometimes lack. Thank you. Thanks for coming.
Paul, Rigby and Jane could not be here, but they've sent some recollections of Bill. This one's from Paul Rigby. Bill and I met in Toowoomba during the early 1990s. We both followed a certain spiritual teaching. We both lived on near zero income, and so we had plenty to talk about. Well, I decided to learn about building websites. Bill was into the wellness world. This resulted in him publishing The Chemical Maze and also led him to Victoria. Bill had a fierce determination to succeed in all he attempted, and this drive allowed him to negotiate many challenges, quite a few of which I don't think I would have attempted. He fought his final horrid battle with the same steady courage. We both embraced the belief that death is not the end, and so I wouldn't expect to be at all surprised to see him again in some other time and place. And now from Jane. I first met Bill at a small think tank group called Re-Engineering Your Career, coordinated by my friend and now partner Paul. That was around 1994. It was a lot of fun exploring novel ways of making money. We were all pretty broke at the time. From that time on, Bill and Paul used to visit my then husband and I frequently, and that was the start of a firm friendship that has continued over the years. Bill was a man of very many talents and a stimulating conversationalist. It was Bill who gave me a kombucha SCOBY in 1994 when kombucha was just becoming popular. I still have the offspring of the SCOBY today. It's still going strong. Often when I have a glass of kombucha, I think of Bill. Bill was always very oriented towards alternate health. He and I had many long conversations about this, as I was and I still am very much of the same ilk. He introduced me to new ways when I had chronic fatigue. It was another time when our friendship was cemented. I remember when there was a New Ways conference at the Gold Coast and Arthur, Bill's father, drove Bill and I down. It was a hair-raising trip as Arthur would drive going down hills with the car out of gear to save fuel. This included driving down the range in traffic, a steep drive with bends. Bill just took it in his stride. We had many stimulating conversations about alternate health. He was just starting out in homeopathy. His skills developed quite rapidly, even before moving to Melbourne, and has helped me out with homeopathy on occasions. The last time, quite recently, when he wasn't well. But that was not his only interest or talent. When Paul and I bought our current house, it was Bill who came up from Melbourne to help renovate. He could turn his hands to just about anything. He was also full of surprises. One day, Paul and I went to visit Bill and his father, Arthur. Bill was living with Arthur at the time. Sitting in the corner of a room was a box with different lengths of PVC pipes sticking out. It was some sort of musical instrument that Bill had made. It had a beautiful sound. I can't remember, though, what it was called or how it worked. I think the most amazing contribution that Bill made that showed his determination, drive and commitment to a cause was his reference book, The Chemical Maze. We've heard about that earlier as well. He put together his first edition when he was living in Ringwood and was printed in Toowoomba. Paul and I both thought that it would never amount to anything. It was too easy to see it as just another of Bill's fads. But I'm so pleased that we were proved wrong. That first edition, he couldn't find a publisher because they didn't think it would sell. If my memory serves me correct, they would only publish if they sold 2,000 copies. So he self-published and went from shop to shop. In that first year, he sold 4,000 copies. There was no problem with publishers after that. To this day, I still come across many people who read the book and use the app. After Bill moved to Melbourne, he built a new life and found his wonderful wife, Kay. That's another story, but not mine to tell. To Kay, you have had such an interesting life with Bill and stood by each other through thick and thin. Thanks to Bill, I found a new friend, Jane. Now I'll ask Sue Walden and Lincoln Judd and then Norm to come up and say a few words. Thanks, Sue.
Thanks, John. Am I going first?
Yep.
Okay. I first met Bill through his involvement with the Neerim District Community House and Men's Shed. My memory is a bit tricky about that, and I can't remember exactly when I first met him, but when I began to get to know him really well was after he joined the Governance Committee in 2016 as Treasurer. Bill carried out the duties of Treasurer with integrity always and with diligence and care. He produced his reports for every Governance Committee meeting in a manner that even the most accountancy challenged of us, i.e. me, could understand, so I was eternally grateful for that aspect of him. Bill filled that role until 2022 and then he took over, remained on the committee and took over as our grants writer. Bill's grant writing skills resulted in major funding for the men's shed. One year we had 2 separate applications in, both for $50,000, one with the Department of Veterans Affairs and one with the Foundation for Rural and Regional Renewal. Both of them for fitting out the internal requirements of the shed, things like the bathroom and disabled toilet in the kitchen. And about a couple of months in, we learnt that we were successful with the Department of Veterans Affairs grant. So there's $50,000, great. But a week later, the Foundation for Rural and Regional Renewal told us we were also successful there. Well, we couldn't take both lots of money for the same thing. So Bill went back to the Foundation for Rural and Regional Renewal and said, that's lovely, can we rewrite our grant application? Now, if any of you who know about government grants, that's practically, unheard of. But they did allow us to do it, and Bill and Phil between them put together a new application for a whole range of other things, such as the solar panels on the roof and extra fit out in the kitchen. They must have done a fantastic job, because we also got back $50,000. As well as that, there were lots of other smaller grants, 10,000 here, 5,000 there, Australian Men's Shed Association, Victorian Men's Shed Association. So with all of Bill's grant writing skills, we've been able to finish the shed to a very, very high quality. The Adventure Walking Group was part of the Community House and Men's Shed activities, and you've already heard how Bill guided those for many years as he sought out locations to challenge the more adventurous walkers among us. He only gave this up when his health intervened and pain in his hips and back prevented him from actually doing those more challenging walks. But he did that every week for a number of years. As well as being involved heavily with the Neerim District Community House and Men's Shed, Bill was involved with quite a few other local activities, and I'll leave it to others to talk to some of those. But things like the History and Heritage Group, Food Relief, Algie Hall Committee, Neerim Star, Neerim District Progress Association. There's so many things he was involved in. Bill's sense of humour has... before I go into that, I have to tell you a story. A couple of weeks after Bill died, Kay sent me a message with a photo attached. And she said, I was cleaning out Bill's wallet, and inside it was this photo. It's a photo of me taken over 20 years ago. So Bill had carried that photo of Kay in his wallet for over 20 years. And I shot back, nothing's changed except the colour of your hair. So Bill's sense of humour has already been talked about. And I have to say, it was often quite quirky. And sometimes he would say something that sounded completely off the wall. And until I actually saw the twinkle in his eye, I didn't realise that he was joking. It was that twinkle that gave it away. The last time I saw that twinkle in Bill's eye was 2 weeks before he died. On the Saturday morning, Kay had gone to visit her mum. Kathleen had been there during the morning to make sure that Bill didn't need anything, or help if Bill needed anything. And Kat had to leave at 12, and I did the last hour or so before Kay got home. I heard Bill stir, and I walked into the bedroom. He was just sitting on the edge of the bed. He just got back to bed. And I said to him, Kay's just contacted me. Kay contacted me a little while ago. She'll be home soon. And just as I said it, Max went absolutely crazy, barking his head off and jumping around as he does. And Bill just looked at me and grinned. And that twinkle was in his eye when he said, there's your doorbell. And that's my last memory of Bill, and we will miss him terribly.
Hello. Thanks for inviting me to speak about Bill. Thank you, Kay. How do I remember Bill? Well, how do you introduce yourself to Bill? I was in that meeting room about 9.5 years ago, and it was full of folks, and I can't remember the purpose of the meeting, but I had this idea to start a community newsletter. So every time there was a group of people, for whatever reason, I would say, hey, before you go, I'd like to start a community newsletter. Let me know if you're interested. And about half a dozen people put their hand up, but the most interesting one was Bill. So Bill signed up, and I said, Bill, you know, we're going to need someone to write this thing. He said, that's all right, I've written a book. It'll be good. All right, great, let's get going. So we formed the team and went out and scrounged someone to support it, which was the Progress Association, and tried some advertisers, went to the bank. Bank told me I was an upstart, we're not going to support your silly magazine. Told Bill, told the team, and Bill said, don't worry about that, we'll do it anyway. So first edition, I said, Bill, we just need 4 pages, you know, A3, fold it in half, put it out there, it'll have some calendar events, some phone numbers, everyone knows what's going on. That's all I wanted. Bill says, nah, 8 pages. So we go 8 pages, black and white. Looks pretty good, found a good printer. Next edition, Bill says, we should go colour. I go, Bill, we can't afford colour. He says, don't worry about it, it'll be fine. So we go colour front page. Bill, how are we going to pay for this? Don't worry about it, it'll be fine. Next edition, 4 pages. Next edition, 8 pages. A couple of editions later, we're up to 12 pages. I'm going, Bill, don't worry about it, it'll be fine. And he was right, everyone turned up. Everyone wanted to be in colour, right? Even at the ridiculous prices we were paying. Bill, an optimist, a quirky optimist. Then he started writing cartoon characters for the Neerim Star. I don't know if you saw any. I don't know how many people got it. You had to explain a few to me. All right, he said that was a good thing. I said, yeah, no worries, let's fill up the page. Then he started popping jokes in, and one of them got a reaction, so we thought, Bill said, look, read the joke first before we publish, before we print this thing. Okay. Read the joke. Oh, I don't know if that will go down well. Anyway, whatever Bill was putting out there, it was fun. It just made the publishing week of the Neerim Star every month far more interesting and a little bit stressful. So, 98 editions in, 9 years worth. Absolute joy ride with Bill, just fabulous. And as we celebrate our 101 edition, and I've got to step away, Bill's legacy will live on. He created something fantastic. Miss him greatly. One of the keepers of the stream in Neerim South. We've lost a couple, and let's not lose any more without celebrating their lives. Thank you very much.
Oh, hello, Bill. He's up there. He's listening to us. Well, I'm talking about card playing. Quite a few years ago, I was in the men's shed, and they said, well, someone said, well, start up a card group. No, oh, I'll be in that as someone who just plays, not organising. And Bill and Kay were the backbone of cards for a long time. So, twice a month at this hall, Wednesdays, 7 o'clock to 9, we played cards. 8 o'clock we had supper. We did actually play cards, but there was a bit of talking, and then we organised tables of cards, and Bill and Kay had this thing called Oh Hell. Sorry, Bill, but that's what you called it that. So that was a card game where you played by you played with people, but you were on your own. You either won or lost. So you might have 5 or 6 people or 8 people playing the game. Only one can win. And that's the way that it was. And it was very casual, no stress. But then we decided to play 500. That's a game with, if people didn't know, you've got 43 cards. It's 4 people, partners. You get 10 cards each, 3 in the kitty. And you have the joker, sometimes called, what do we call it, Kay? Oh, the bird. We sometimes call the joker the bird. And so you've got a partner. You've got 10 cards, you've got to win. To make a bid, you've got to win 6 out of your 10 with your partner. Might sound easy, but you've got your opponents wanting to knock you down as much as they can. So off we go. And there we'd be sitting there, and I might be playing with Bill as my partner. And to quote a failed politician, this is a statement: Bill was a deep thinker. He was a deep thinker. Let the cards would be dealt out, and Bill would get his 10 cards. And he'd look at them, he'd look up and smile. And then he'd smile again. You think, well, he's got to make a bid here. What's he going to do? Because he's thinking. Like an accountant, he's working it all out. 10 cards. Got to win 6 with a partner. So you might make a bid. And then he'd laugh. Because he'd made a bid, and everyone else thought, what's Bill up to? You know, even his partner was thinking, what's Bill up to? Is he faking it or is he not? So the bids, because you go 6, go up. And then it might get the 7. And then something happens where someone, probably me, decides that I can make a call called misère, otherwise called misery. It's a big bid, and the idea is that your partner stops, you've got the call, and you've got to lose every card. Sounds easy? But it's a big bid. If you fail, you go down, whew, big. If you win, you go up big. So it's on. And after a while, other people are saying, this bloke keeps doing this misère thing. I wonder if we could have a go. And then you see Bill getting around, well, have a go at this, he says. So he actually encouraged him to do what he sometimes might think is a bit extra, you know, like out of the box, like you could fail. Bill doesn't like failing. No one likes to fail, but anyway, so he'd succeed. And I think, well, you're off, Bill. You can do it every game. You can keep going, and you can build up on this situation where your brain's not getting 6 wins, but you're going to lose every card. So off we go. And I missed that because that's part of the game where he could laugh. He'll make a bit like that, smile, and he'd laugh and thinking, you still don't know what the laugh meant, whether he thinks he's going to win or lose, but we're having a go. And Bill liked to have a go. And that's what I remember.
I'd just like to invite anybody else who might like to come out and say a few words. You're very welcome to. We've got an open mic now if you'd like to do so.
Needs to come down a bit, yeah. Hello all, I'm Patricia Beale and I'm here to talk a little bit more about not Bill in Neerim South, but Bill when I first met him, because Kay and I go back a long time, and being invited to meet Bill, this lovely new man in her life. Well, a lot of us are good friends of Kay. We really wanted the best for Kay. And Bill was a quiet, late bloomer. And those of you who know about the love conversations, look it up on the internet if you don't. One of the best and most interesting love conversations is really typical Bill. He did acts of service. He thought about what that person really wanted and really needed, and you heard one example from Kay. But I remember the lead up to Kay and Bill's wedding in that wonderful place at Ringwood East. It's at Ringwood, sorry. Very hot front garden, very tall metal fence. Really not quite the place you would choose to have your garden wedding. Challenge for Bill. He decided they would have the most magnificent, beautiful rock waterfall with planting. And he worked his socks off, so to speak, It was magnificent. That was Bill. The creative ideas, the physicality, the can-do, but the actual heart to create for someone who's the love of his life something beautiful and memorable. It was absolutely magnificent. And then seeing Bill and Kay move throughout the journey throughout Victoria and down to Pambula and back, coming back up into Gippsland, and finally settling in. First of all, Locke was a real eye-opener. Bill and Kay are still absolutely beloved in the community of Locke. And there were many of us who would travel, we didn't care how far, to go to that wonderful gallery they created and that beautiful side garden. Oh my gosh, that was gorgeous. It's worth it. Now, I can remember Bill talking with me as a well-respected health guide. Now, I've had rheumatoid arthritis for a long time, and a lot of what you can do is based in natural medicine and diet and well-being and so on. And so to have those really wonderful, deep conversations with a very knowledgeable person, but who comes from the heart space, brings the knowledge through the heart and what the person is actually at that stage of life able to take in. That's a skill that very few people have. And many of the things that I've heard from you today, your community at Neerim South, essentially are encapsulated by both Bill and Kay's attitude to life. I can remember Kay telling me, creating a website, what do you think it was called? Possibility.com. Well, of course. Because that's how they live their life together. But the many acts of service and the many acts of kindness and love and compassion that they share, this is a synchronicity of two human beings who create something wonderful together. And regardless of one who's up there having a wonderful time, here, Bill, here's your cloud on the right, you've earned it, mate. He'll still be present in all the people that he's loved and who've loved him back. Because we go on living our lives with possibility, with love and compassion and heart. So thank you, Bill, and thank you, Kay. I just want to read something that I last actually read at my brother's funeral. And it's an old Celtic blessing. May the road rise up to meet you. May the wind be always at your back. May the sun shine warm upon your face, the rain fall softly upon your fields, and until we meet again, may God hold you in the palm of his hand.
Well, it's a good time to look into, continue our time together, thinking about Bill with a slideshow. So thanks, Lincoln. I'll let you do the honours for that one.
save time in a bottle. The first thing that I'd like to do is to save every day till eternity passes away, just to spend them with you. If I could make days last forever, if words could make wishes come true, I'd save every day like a treasure, and then again I would spend them with you. But there never seems to be enough time to do the things you want to do once you find them. I've looked around enough to know that you're the one I want to go through time with. If I had a box just for wishes and dreams that had never come true, the box would be empty except for the memory of how they were answered by you. But there never seems to be enough time to do the things you want to do once you find them. I've looked around enough to know that you're the one I want to go through time.
A memory from Warwick, Lancashire. Warwick was unable to attend. My most enjoyable memories of Bill are working alongside him while doing renovations on the Lancashire family holiday house. So much was achieved during the course of a weekend. Great camaraderie, good humour and enjoying everyone's company as we all relaxed at the end of a day well done. I really appreciated Bill's enthusiasm, dry humour and energy during those working bees. Bill Statham, Man of Mischief, that says it all, doesn't it? By Ken McKeon. I've known Bill since about 1978. He and I joined Rotaract in Toowoomba about that time, and we were the club's entertainment, telling jokes and forever carrying out practical jokes. I'd say we had about the same sense of mischief, with Bill climbing another member's, the president at the time, antenna to hang up some of his underwear before setting a timer to go off on the next morning in his bedroom at 2 a.m. to wake up to AC/DC at full volume. We had some good times, much to the chagrin of other members and much to the stilted giggles of the other 20-plus year-olds. Don't worry, the target of the above pranks kept Bill and I company on a trip to Cairns the next year, so no bad blood. Bill and I worked beside each other for a couple of years in Toowoomba, doing landscaping jobs around the Downs. We were both somewhat lost souls and both looking for that place to belong. I must admit I was saddened when Bill moved to Victoria, but that was your gain. And it was Neerim South's gain when they came here, Bill and Kay. We kept in phone contact for birthdays, and I knew of his mighty fight with prostate cancer, and what a fight it was. Bill was never one to give up. Only caught up with him twice in person when he visited family in Toowoomba, and as brothers, it was as if we had seen each other yesterday. I shall miss him and his droll sense of humour, but more so his enduring friendship, which I never doubted. Long live his memory, from Ken McKeon, great mate in Brisbane. Well, just to tie up this afternoon, there's a poem which I thought really summed up Bill's life. It's called A Life Well Lived. A life well lived is a precious gift of hope and strength and grace from someone who has made our world a brighter, better place. It's filled with moments, sweet and sad, with smiles and sometimes tears, with friendships formed and good times shared and laughter through the years. A life well lived is a legacy of joy and pride and pleasure, of living, lasting memory our grateful hearts will treasure. Author is unknown. Well, now time for afternoon tea. Bill would love us to enjoy standing around and enjoying each other's company and telling a few stories about him. But I'd like to say once again thank you to the Historical Society and some of the other people that brought food this afternoon for us to enjoy. He was very much passionate about the Historical Society and it started in later time, and he was one of the founding members of that group. So enjoy the afternoon. So thank you very much, and thank you, Kay, for letting me be the MC. Thank you.